Welcome to Preserving Our Oral History. Today we're featuring Foster Simon.
My name is Foster Simon. I'm a Lokono, Arawak, belongs to St. Cuthberts, was born and grown up here. Presently I'm an artist, and I belong to when we started our art group in St. Cuthberts. It was started by one by the name of George Simon, who we always refer to as the father of art in this community. And we are close relatives, and at one time he was the principal of the art school in Georgetown, and I had the opportunity as a family of him to visit the art school on a few occasions, just visited, and I fell in love with carving. But when I used to go to school, I always had a love for art, because art, I think, is a part of indigenous people, especially as an Arawak. You know, most of all, I portray the natural surrounding around me in my artwork, my culture, our myths, our legends that we inherited from our ancestors who brought us to this lovely place called Pakuri village, known as St. Cuthberts also. But I prefer the name Pakuri because it's something that really gave me the inspiration of my ancestors, and thanking them for bringing us to a place like here. So beautiful place, you know, that we can inherit, and the culture, the heritage that they leave for us. You know, it's so rich. And I portray all these in my work. Like this is a Indian man, and he's going to hold his bow and arrow here, and the arrow would be in his hand here. I have it there. It's not completed. And this one here is about the powerful creatures in Guyana: the harpy eagle, the bushmaster, the jaguar. And yeah, this is the giant anteater here at the bottom here, and at the back here is the turtle, land turtle. And this here at the bottom here represents the like the spinning of the culture of our elders, who does this to make like the tibistiri hammock and things like that. So all these are part of our culture and our natural environment and the surrounding around us. You know, I would say that I'm blessed to have this talent. I was on scholarship in the early years of my life as a young man. I attended the Government Technical Institute here, technical drawing and learning how to do things and make it become easy. I think that is what really inspired me to make myself to become an artist, because after visiting with George at the art school, it's only seeing these work, and I was fascinated by it. Came back and had a lot of dreams about artwork. Didn't know how to start cutting a wood, and one of my good friends was passed on, Mr. Telford Taylor. He was one who used to carve, and I explained to him that I wanted to carve, and you know, don't know how to start. And he invited me to be a part of his little class where he worked. Then he used to work in the jungle. He had a part that he used to work there, and I attended there with him like 1 week. In the space of the second week, I went off by myself and started to do as I continued to do here, because cutting the wood was the hardest thing for me to do. And as long as I got the idea of cutting the wood, right, because first of all, I didn't know we had to draw, you had to draw, you know, where you're leaving and where you're cutting out. And that was the real problem I had, and he made it easier for me, and I want to endeavor into more things. And he said, just give me a book and say, look at this and carve. And I think he was making things difficult to me, but he was not. You know, he was just trying to give me the idea of what I think I want to do, I can do, because as long as you can know where to cut and where to leave, it was no problem. So uh, after we went into that, I stopped going to classes because I know I have learned enough there within that the space of 1 week, and I continued away. And as I said, our organization, which was uh, Artists for the Environment, that was our first exhibition that I went on. There was one before, and I was not in the group. Artists for the Environment. Well, as artists, we try to preserve the environment, and most of all, indigenous artists then, right? And we normally use like most fell trees, right? We do not cut trees. So to do our work, we look for tree that is already, uh, fall down and have the natural, we would call it the takuba, and work the takuba. But the only thing about our work is that we do not have the medium to do large work like the trees with the natural beauty, because if you can see this one here, it's black. This is the natural color of the wood, and this is banya. This is the natural color. And this one here is the kalibali, which is the redwood, the natural color also, which also adds beauty to the work, right? And all this come about because of our culture. As I said, I grew up with a family, a cultural family. My grandmother, my grandfather, my dad, was a family who did weaving, like making canoes. And I know my grandmother used to relate a lot about the past life to me, and I think that is what I got all this idea about, putting these things into I would say reality, making them, come alive again, and to know that this is our culture, we're still alive, and this is what we are doing, It's a blessing from God that I would say are from the Great Spirit that we inherited from our ancestors. I thank God, the Great Spirit, for blessing me to be a sculptor, right? I represent this community here at many exhibitions, especially like our Amerindian Heritage exhibition. I go out in a lot of those things, and Guy Expo and other exhibitions like at the Castellani House, national exhibitions. Right here I go and exhibit my work. And if you can see my work, it's portray. This one is more spiritual. The harp eagle at the top again, we like to portray the harp eagle because it's a part of us, the power of the eagle, and the jaguar. But this one here deals with the different spirits, like the spirit of the frog, the spirit of the fox. It is said that my ancestor, my grandmother used to say that our ancestors used to turn to like tiger, used to turn into different creatures, like in the form of the Kanaima, right? I certainly heard of the Kanaima and the Kanaima. We call it Kanaima here, or Yaku, we just call it, right? But I know in the Rupununi, they call it the Zombie Man, right? And the Zombie Man is a man just like me, right? But he's a man can, what I must say, he can transform himself into different creatures in a mystical form, right? Like he would, like, as I said, become like a jaguar or a deer or a fox or something like that, right? And he would be around. Is a guy that we have to be careful about because he's someone evil, right? And as I said, he would appear in this form. I also met a great artist who used to do molding of the balata work by the name of Georgetown Credo, that's in the Rupununi in the village of Napi. Here I also spent some time living as a missionary. And I met him and asked him concerning the Kanaima because I saw some of his work molded from this balata. And there was the Kanaima man, and the Kanaima man was on his fore, his knee, and his hands, and he can whistle, right? And he would whistle and he have a lot of different masses, and these masses now would represent the different creatures that he can, turn to us. You can probably see him, right? Because you will not see him as a man, you would see him as an animal, probably, as I said, like the giant anteater or the jaguar or a deer or a fox or some bird like uh, the marudi or something like that, right? So these guys do transform themselves into these things on a mystical form, right? And that all happened through like what we would call, my granny would say, they would use this thing. I would say it's lost. We have it now, but you don't know the use of it. The binners, right? The different binners that uh, our ancestors really used. There were different type of binners for different purposes and different creatures, or even our fellow man, right? Especially the men folks would use it on the ladies, or the ladies would use it on the man, right? It's as we said, it's the binner, right? The binner plants. They are different plants, and my granny said that how they come about getting these plants, they would get one of these huge lankomudi and kill it and stuff it right at the mouth and at the, 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 the anus. They would stuff it and they would burn it, and they would leave the burned stuff there, and after then the different plants would germinate from the ash of that komudi. And then you have to try the different plants to see what it is good for, and then the good ones, you use the good ones, the bad ones you will try to get rid, because you said that there is one, like, for example, if you take one and it's for the snake, everywhere you go, you would reach up with snake, right? You take one with the jaguar, you would go and reach up jaguar. So most time they would use the one that, is good for them, like for the tapir and the deer and the labo and all these sort of things that, is good for food, but not the dangerous creatures like the jaguar and, as I said, the snake and, evil things. So these things are real, they do work. It is not just a myth, it's real. It's something that they really put into practice. But as I said, we as the Lokono, it is said that we are the peaceful tribe of Indian in Guyana. We are the peasant tribe. So we live on the coast, and I would say that we lost most of those things, but traveling to different parts of Guyana, I encounter those things because I know about them, and as I go there, I would try to ask questions about these things to find out, if these things are really true, and it really what I would say, it really mixed with what my granny and grandfather would really let me to know, because it's that way with us as indigenous people. We depend upon the jungle for our living. With everything, the jungle means everything unto us. It's where we get our medicine from, the different plants or the different trees or the different bushes or whatever. It is everything for us, where we get our house, not like today, in the past, our ancestors never used to use nail, and, we would make our trashes from the palm leaves and the trunk of the palm for flooring and things like this. So we, in the past, lived naturally from the natural environment. That is why we have that love for the environment. The environment is a part of us. It is said that you can take the indigenous from the jungle, but you cannot take the jungle from him. That is always within us as indigenous people. So I'm thankful, I'm proud being an indigenous person. It helped me really to be who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. Recognized Lokono artists. As I said, I'm so thankful for George Simon, who was the father of art. He have his brother still is around, Oswald Simon. He still does carving too. He's a national artist, and we are from the same village. And it's so sad to say that the one who taught me, Mr. Telford Taylor, he have passed on, and also Lynus Clenkian, one of my art brother, he also passed on. So it is only myself, Oswald, and one by the name of Roland Taylor, who is also Telford's brother, but he had migrated from St. Cuthbert's, and he's living right now in the Rupununi, in the village of Anai, Ruporti. There's where he's living. He continued to do his work there, you know, promoting our culture there, also our art and our culture. So he is living that side and continue to do the work. You know, as I said, our culture is so rich. There's so many things, you know, that, you know, when you speak about these things, it is like, you know, I would say it may sound that it's not real, but these things are real, real. You know, I remember one time I went out hunting and waiting for a lava in the rain. You know, it set up a lot, and it's not far from where you live. There was an old lady who used to live there by the name of Grandmother Blanche, right? And she was already dead. She passed on, but her house was there. And I was waiting for a lava over the next side of her landing, and the rain set up, and I decided to go and shelter in her apartment, which was open. There was a locked part, a room, and an open part where I could have gone. And then I take a rest, and within that rest, I go to drop asleep, you know. And I know this is the experience of me that I felt as though someone came over me and pressed me down, you know. And as I said again, as an Amerindian partner knows about these things, the first thing I did is rise. I had my father he was a licensed firearm holder, so I was hunting with his gun, and I reached for the gun, and the first thing I did is to see if I have my voice, right? Because it is said that when the Kanaima or whatever do this to you, you cannot speak, your voice will not be there. So I tried to make, and I said, oh, yes, and my voice was still there, you know. I said, all right, well, I'm fine. And I got up, you know, although the rain was falling and I was sleepy. I said, no more sleep. As soon as the rain stopped, I move out, right? Get back to home. So there's a lot of experience we do go through. I know once again I was uh, going in the river, shoaling again. In the past when I was young, I loved hunting. I was shoaling in the river. Then I was living down the river also. And you know, shoaling is where you go very easy paddling the boat, listening to animals coming down to drink water, or feeding, or whatever. And the river at the top, the water was full of fish. These fine fishes all over the water, and I became afraid because after I paddling now, right, when I throw the paddle, the fishes would jump in the boat, and when I strike, I see a lot of fish in the tire. So my grandmother used to say when the fishes are wrong, you know, the mermaid is wrong, or the mermaid, or what they would call it, right? So you have to be careful with that, you know, again. So they used to say too that, you know, with those things, being hunting, I was traveling easy, nothing expected me. So what I had to do is to keep a little noise, right? And I know Granny used to say that you used to have to use like a paddle made out of the wood by the name of Yarola. The Yarola wood, which is a paddle that would go down, right? And they would use that, like for example, if the mermaid or anything, that they would throw down the paddle in the water, right? And it would go down and it will do what it have to do there with the mermaid, right? So all these things we have learned from our ancestors, right? And so when I went into the Rupununi to live, migrated into the Rupununi, that is in the year 2003. I went there as a missionary, and you know, being an Arawak within my Makushi brethren, you know, there they said, as I said before, they call it the zombie man, right? They don't call it Kanaima like we do as Arawak. So they said, we have to be careful about this zombie man, right? Because we do not know about it. We live a different life here. We are not afraid of those things we go about. you know, and uh, I had my wife then. I had only 3 children, and they would tell my wife, "You got to be careful, you know. You got to lock your door. You can't leave your door open or your window open because these people can go in the house and they can wait for you there, and you know they can turn to like cockroaches and things like that and wait. And during the night they would pounce upon you, right? And they would kill you, right? And uh, we were not afraid because we are accustomed to leave our home like this open, you know, during the day, you know, in and out, in and out, you know. So we were not afraid of those things. So, you know, but we had to be aware, right? Very well, right? We take in what they have taught us because it's their place, they know. You know, it's not like our place. I always said when you're a strange person and you go to a strange place, you have to know that you're strange and you cannot do as you like when you're in a strange place that you normally do in your place, right? Because I went to the creek where they would tell me, you know, well, uh, you can't eat pepper and throw your pepper. And it's little creek, not like our creek that we have here, like in Maika River, you know, big creek, you know, and little creeks. But I know in those little creeks there are things like the stingray, which we do not have here. So as I said earlier, when you're strange to a place, you have to operate strange and do as they would relate unto you, what you can do and what you cannot do. So these are the things we need to know as indigenous people. We do those things, you know, we go about and we try to be aware of these things and to understand that, you know, it's almost the same thing all over in indigenous communities, right? We have sacred places, sacred rocks or sacred place that become sacred because um, uh, we Amerindians, as I said, are indigenous people, right? Uh, it was said that we probably did not know about God, right? But our ancestors knew about as I mentioned earlier, we refer to it as the Great Spirit. We know God is Spirit. So they used to say the Great Spirit. So all of this uh, brings together our way of life as indigenous people. In Guyana, there are 9 tribes of Indian, and it was said too that the tribes they used to have a tribal war within themselves, the different tribe against different tribes. It was said that the Caribs used to pounce upon the Arawaks because we were more peaceful. We live a peaceful life, and they would pounce upon us, and you know they were known as the cannibals. They said they used to eat us, and you know there's a lot of evidence, especially in the Rupununi. I know that there's it about the Carib and the Arawak in our community too, down the river where they said that they used to come and pounce upon our ancestors. Our ancestors, one of the elders told me, rather than living along the river where they used to live alongside the river, they became easy prey to the Caribs. So what they did, they used to live at the back dam now. They used to go in the back dam to live, right? And never a permanent crew. They always used to have this thing that we call Sirihi. The Sirihi, just they would know, right? And they would live at the back. Even there's a story of at the back Yamura, right, where they said uh, the water spirit came and swallowed the little community there. So that is how they hid from the Caribbean, like in that way, living far off the main river, right, rather than being prey to these Caribs. So uh, he said they used to live in the back down. So before they lived in this part where we are living here today in the village here, they used to, as I said, live along the river. And as the river tended to flood, they decided to come up and looking for higher grounds, hunting grounds, farming grounds, and they found here it was a good hunting ground, a good farming ground, and here's where they established the village, which is today known as St. Cuthbert's, but it was first called Pakuri, as I said. And I prefer the name Pakuri to remember my ancestors. And there's also a lot of evidence in the Rupununi about these tribal war also with the tribe, the different tribes, because I went through a lot of different places like Toka and Sarama and uh, Taushida and all these places where there's uh, evidence of people living in caves, right? And old potteries and like stone axes and all these things are there, you know, which shows that our ancestors there used to live in cave, you know, hiding from their enemy. And it was said also that they had a way that they would uh, send signal to the other tribes or to their tribe of the attacking force, where they would go up on the mountain and, you know, let something shine or something like that and send out the message that they're being attacked. You know, so all these things are real. But today what you find now, we are not that. We are living in peace with each and every tribe. You know, there is no, I would say, rivalry between ourselves, right? We live in love regardless of tribe. We are one indigenous people, you know. So I would say that we are a good example to follow after, to know that we used to have these tribal war, and today we can live in that peace and unity and harmony with each other as indigenous people, regardless of tribe. We are one Amerindian people. So I would say that we can set that example for our other uh, brothers, Guyanese brothers, to follow after us, to know that we, as a people, we can live in that way, in that peace and love, loving way, right? Not because of tribe, not because of our race or anything like that, you know. So our culture is really, really rich, you know, and I would say that we are blessed to be a part of this, and most of all, blessed to put it into this medium, you know, that the world can see us. You know, as an artist, I would say, as indigenous artists, I would say that we struggle. You know, we struggles a lot, especially in marketing our products. You know, there's so much that we can uh, uh, let the world know if we can have market for a product. And, you know, for example, my work here, I have this work for quite some time. It is even not encouraging to finish because, you know, no buyers, you know. So I'm here working. I'm doing other things too. Farming, I'm a farmer. I love farming, right? As I said, also I'm a missionary. I do travel, go to different communities, especially Amerindian communities. We do work in these areas. I work with uh, the Church of Christ, the organization we have within that church there from North America is the Amerindian Mission Guyana, which I'm a part of, and we go directly to Amerindian communities to teach them about the Great Spirit, or uh, our God, right? You know, some of my artist friend would say, you know, I've gone away from the true culture, but I thank God for my culture, right? That my culture makes me who I am, right? It's not because um, I became a Christian, I forgot about my culture. No, my culture is who I am. That is, I'm born in it, I grow in it, and I'm still living it, and I teach my children it, you know, all of them, you know, my grandchildren. So, you know, I thank God, you know, that I can be an artist, that I can, you know, relate, as I said, my work to the outside world. So, you know, there is so much, you know, about our culture. Like the indigenous man, if you can see him with his lap, you know, and his head normally have a headdress, right? Which we try to portray in our work, and you can see his hair is plaited at the back here. He has long hair, and just culturally for us to grow our hair. It's only today you find that we are cutting our hair, but in the past our ancestors used to have long hairs, right? So uh, that is a part of us. You know, I would like to also to refer about, what we know it in our culture, like grandma used to tell me about the spirit of the Eegilie, right? The Eegilie is a spirit that would whistle. It would whistle. It's like the Mashishikari, two spirits, right? The one would say Mashishikari, and when they hear that now, they would know like something is happening, or they would say, you know what, don't imitate this because it's a spirit, and it can come to you, and it can, it can break your neck, or it can kill you, or something like that, right? So these spirits, they would pass. They would say when it pass, it going in a different direction. Well, he's traveling in this way, and we're gonna expect death, things like that, right? All these things we have learned from all these different things, right? So as indigenous people also, we those of us who know so well about it tends to understand that these things are there to protect us, right? They are there to protect us, but it's just we have to know how to deal with them, to deal with them, you know. And the boards are the same thing, the different boards, you'd find like the night board would come around and it make a noise around your house. They would say, you know, um, she must get him baby, and all these sort of things, because the board, the ancestors knew from these things, right? It's not like today when you just wait till you get pregnant and you're gone, out and get a, well, I don't even know what you would call it, right? To know what type of child you're getting and all these things. But our ancestor would know all these things, right? From just like birds making different songs, and they would know, right? Just like death, they would know when they would have death, the different birds. As I said, the spirit of the Eegilie also depends on where you're here going, right? So all these things are a part of our life that we grew up knowing, like we know about the bush dai dai, right? The bush dai dai, and I try to imagine the bush dai dai like our ancestors say, is big man, a big hairy man, and I try to portray him, his face, and as an artist, as a big hairy man, you know. I think it's the same one they call the Bigfoot or something like that, right? So all these things we know about. Like I know one of my uh, older friends said, the only thing that could keep away him from you is like a river, because he wouldn't go into the river to cross the river, or fire. They would light fire in the night. You hear him would keep a lot of knives, and it's a big, it says like a devil. I don't know, right? But as I said, I tried to imagine him with long teeth and uh, tribal, like face looking, and hairy man and all these things. I tried to portray him in one of my work also. So all these things are part of our everyday life that we grew up knowing about from very tender age. You know, Granny and grandfather would speak to us about these things, and then they would speak to us in Arawak, that is our language. And Granny used to spin, as I said at the bottom here, it represents the spinning of the Tibisirian into the threads to make hammock, right? She would wake up early in the morning and she would spin her straw, and she would wake up and she would say, Hannibal there? Are you young? She said, you wake up. Are you sleeping too much? But, and she would start to speak Arawak, speaking, I would say, man, why you left you let sleep, man? But not knowing my one company, right? It's company my want, and she want partner for the outfit, right? That's why she want you to wake up, that you could be with her, right? But again, she was teaching you about the language, because she's not speaking English, she's speaking Arawak, and She's saying, this is why you got to know, this is why you got to do when you get big. You know, when people come and they come and, you know, if people come for attack you, why you gonna say, people come for attack you, and then now they're going to know where you're saying where you could talk in Arawak, right? And say, well, the people come and, you know, to what you gonna say, fight with us or whatever, right? She would speak in Arawak, right? I can't even speak that right now, all right? But I have to think about it to speak. It's not that I do not know it, but we do not speak it in an everyday uh, form, right, for us to understand right away. But I understand the Arawak very well. I understand everything. I live the life. I'm a part of the life. It's a part of me, and I'm a part of it, right? And I would say all of us as indigenous people, you know, we are blessed to have this rich culture, right? And I would think that learning technology, techniques to do things, make things even more easier. As I said, I took 1 week to learn to carve. And here's where I am today, you know, as one of the master carver of this community. Here, I've been carving for like close to 30 years, like 27 years. I've been carving. And my carving, when I started on a Good Friday. And as I said, it was dreams, you know, dreams upon dream, until I started to do it. So, you know, it came, I would say, naturally. Naturally, it's not something, you know, I was forced to do, right? Because, you know, every night, as I said, I dream, and, you know I was being called to do this work because, you know, when I used to go to school, I loved to draw. I used to love to draw and painting, and today that is not a part of me, but I love to carve. I love converting wood into objects, different objects, right? As I said, my carving is directly from our culture. But if there is anything other than our culture that someone would say, man, well, I want you to carve this for me. Can you do it? No, nothing is not hard for me to carve, because if I can carve wood, I can carve anything, right? So I love challenges. Like you say, someone would say, well, I want you, you know, to make this for me. I want you to make that for me. Can you do it? Yes, I can do it, because wood is what I work with, and, you know, I can do anything out of wood. Yeah, as long as I put myself to do it, yes, it's there, and I will do it. So, as a indigenous man, as I would say again, I'm proud to be an indigenous man. I'm proud to be Pakurian, as they said, right? I'm proud to born here, you know, in the one of the most beautiful Amerindian communities in Guyana, which is close to Georgetown, in the very region with Georgetown. You know, you can go to and fro from St. Cuthbert to Georgetown, you know, so wonderful, so blessed, you know. As I said, I thank God that I born here. You know, uh, we are all one family here. We live as a family, right, in St. Cuthbert's. We live as a family with everyone. And as I always would say, we are all related some form or the other, some way or the other, either by mom, by dad, or some way, right? We are all related. There are a few outsiders who came, you know, different tribes of indigenous people who came and intermarried in our community. So we all live in that peace and love, right? As Lokono. As I said, the Lokono, they are the peaceful tribe. They are known as the peasant of the tribe of Guyana. So I'm so thankful to be a part of that tribe, the Lokono indigenous tribe. Yeah, this is a indigenous chief. This is we call it the Lokono, or we call it a staff. It's more ceremonial stick, you know, that our ancestors used when they used to have their meeting. They would stand for silence. And if you see, there's the chief at the top here, and there's the ordinary Indian at the bottom here. Well, first of all, you have to be ordinary Indian to rise to being a chief. And you know, there's a lot of hurdles in life growing up, ups and downs, and to reach the stage, you know. So here, the chief. So it's made out of purple heart, one of our finest wood in Guyana also. So this is the Lokono.
Thank you to all the donors that made this project possible. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye. Until the next time.